Then everybody, I hope you're all well and had a great weekend as always. Ready now to prepare ourselves and jump in to the charts and get ready for the week ahead. Always be prepared and always get ahead of the market. Our week starts now. So I'm going to jump straight into the economic calendar. As always, it's the very first thing that you need to look at for the week ahead. You can do all your analysis, but then if you don't know what fundamentals are coming out, it can absolutely destroy you. So you have to always be aware of what news is coming out and when. So we've got quite a lot coming out this week again. Last week was a busy week. We saw how price, the movement before non-farm payroll came out. We saw a bit of movement on the release of non-farm payroll, which we'll cover in a minute. But yeah, we always have to be aware of what fundamentals are coming out and when. So Monday, we've got the head of the Federal Reserve, Mr. Powell, speaking. He's speaking quite a lot this week. He's speaking on Monday evening UK time. He is then speaking on Tuesday, as along with not along with him, but in the same day. The Bank of England is speaking. The head of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, is speaking. Wednesday then, crude oil inventories. What we've got, Mr. Powell speaking from the Fed again. Then we have the FOMC meeting minutes. So that is going to be a busy Wednesday afternoon. So from 4, 5, 6, 7, I expect lots of volatility, lots of movement in the market. Going to be a very interesting week. Thursday, we have pound GDP, manufacturing production. That'd be quite interesting given the way that the pound has been acting recently, and also just to see how the economy in the UK is reacting. Then we got after that. Then we got the government Carney speaking again from the Bank of England. Then we have the monetary policy meeting from the Euro. Then we've got US dollar news. We're jam-packed this week, guys. Then we've got Canadian news, employment and unemployment rate on Friday. So every day there is something. The only quiet day really is Monday during the day. But then we may see some choppiness from the aftermath of non-farm payroll. So let's jump into the charts. Now, I mentioned this before. I always keep repeating the things that are of importance. A Monday after non-farm payroll is not an ideal day to trade. Non-farm payroll is highly manipulative. Wasn't majorly manipulative at the time of the release on Friday. There was some movement in either direction. You saw it was quite choppy towards the end of the day. But as I said, the price can be sort of the results can be priced in prior to the meeting. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. See how we saw that dynamic shift all of a sudden with the US dollar, how it just kind of just changed, and we saw that drop. But Monday, Tuesday, we had the push up for the US dollar, making people buy the US dollar pairs. And Wednesday, Thursday, Friday pulled down, and then we had that choppiness on Friday. So we can see how we have that. We have lots of movement in the pairs because of things like non-farm payroll, and then we have basically the fallout from that on the Monday. So basically, you need to let the dust settle on a Monday. In general, Monday is not always the perfect day to take a trade. You can always see some false moves and stuff like that, or the market's quite slow. And then you have to see how the market reacts on the weekend. So you don't really want to jump straight into a trade. Normally, I would like to leave it till about Tuesday. Obviously, if there is some opportunities that are too good to miss, then we jump into them. But really, you got to have a really relaxed approach to a Monday and not be sitting on the edge of your seat on Sunday evening when the market opens and be looking for a trade just to take a trade. You need to get that out of you and just sit back, let the market do its thing. Understand there's going to be some strange movements. Possible the first UK session might be a movement in the opposite direction of the US session. So you just got to kind of let the market and let the rest of the world wake up on a Monday, react to the news over the weekend, and let the dust settle. So Euro USD, talking about that, let's just start on the monthly candle. So on each chart, I'm going to look at the monthly chart, the weekly, and then the daily, because last week we did have the close of the monthly candle. Here now we can see October. October was last week. We just bring up the calendar here. October was on Tuesday, so Monday was the close of the bank holiday. Now, sorry, not the bank holiday. Monday was the close of the monthly candle. So just want to keep an eye on that. So we can see here, monthly candle, very bearish on Euro USD. You can see we broke below the weekly support level, pushed back up, rejected that, and then rolled over back down to the downside. So we're very, very bearish on the monthly chart here. We can obviously see that. Weekly, last week we had quite a bearish week. We pushed down. This week we pushed down and made new lows where we took some profit and took about 1.5% profit. Unfortunately, the rest of our trade came back to break even, but we did push back. But on the weekly chart, we're showing some rejection from this level once again. So on the weekly, shows that we could be finding some support from around these levels. You can see there, pin down once more, possibly taking out, inducing more short sellers or taking out any stop losses for any longs that were in previously, and now could be reversing. But we have to remember on a higher time frame, monthly, we're very, very bearish. So let's drop down to the daily. We can see here, remember, we use trend lines to understand the direction of the market. Quite simply put here, you can see 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We're in a downtrend. That's the overall trend, or the outer trend. We can see here on a daily, we've pushed back up. We've got this doji candle. This is what I was talking about in the price action webinar. You can see we've had a push up here, and now we've got a bit of a doji candle here. However, we need to see, is this reacting of a resistance or area, and see, is this actually going, is there anything to actually make this roll over? So we'll drop down to the 4 hour. You see we do have a daily doji candle showing that price is starting to stall here from this little push up, and it's possible that this could keep rolling over in line with the overall trend. So let's see what is making it slow down here. Well, let's have a look. You put on a trend line here, bang. Let's just get rid of this outer trend line because it's not needed at the moment. We can see here 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We've got the inner trend line. So now we can see why price is reacting. So remember I said in the price action webinar that you want to be looking at price reacting off a support or resistance, which can be a weekly, monthly, daily, or it can be a trend line because they're obviously support and resistance as well. So we're looking at how price is reacting around here. Now we've created this double top on a 4 hour chart. We have had this really lovely sort of inverse head and shoulders, which I was also talking about on the webinar. We have had this really nice inverse head and shoulders, sort of reversal sign, but we are, however, starting to stall at this sort of level. So this is an interesting level coming into this week, and I'll be watching. I'm glad that I'm out of it at the moment. We did look at taking trade on this on Friday, because I said Monday we could see some choppy action, choppy price action around here before we see the real move. So let's drop down to the 1 hour. 1 hour, we can see we have this sort of counter trend line coming across here, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Should this break, then we're back in line with the overall trend. So we're looking at signs here for this sort of slowing down, this little push up to the upside, slowing down and failing. Now we basically closed at where we looked at entering on Friday. You can see here we've got this really nice double top formation, 1, 2. And then on the lower time frames, we started to show some really nice sort of, let me just get rid of these lines for a minute. Started to show some nice price action, like I spoke about on the webinar. 1, 2, 3, shooting star, evening star formation. Then we came back up and made another double top here. 1, 2, 3, another evening star formation. And then from here, it looked like we were going to push down. Had a little push, and then Friday evening, we actually haven't got a morning star here. Friday evening, volume went, that's why we got out the trade. It just ended up dying and just nothing really happening. So happy to be out of this, happy to wait until Monday morning. Let's see what happens with this. Remember, there is a good opportunity that we could push down from here if the US dollar is going to gain strength. Now this week is so important about the US dollar. There's they've got the head of the Federal Reserve speaking 3 or 4 times. We've got the FOMC meeting on Wednesday, so the US dollar is going to be volatile. So it's important to watch this. It's going to be a choppy one this week. But should the US dollar gain strength, we could see Euro USD push down even more. So let's have a look. But if not, then maybe this could be on. It could be on the cards for a reversal from here. But even so, I still think we might see a little push down into sort of this support region, have one more final rejection from that level before making our way upwards if we were to be reversing. So quite an interesting one there. I'm expecting a little bit of a push down from Euro USD from current levels, roughly around these levels. But we might see a bit of choppiness around this sort of inner trend line that we can see at the moment on Monday But I actually expect this to sort of just consolidate and be at a stalemate most of Monday until we have the FOM or until we have the Fed speaking at on Monday evening. Euro GBP, one that we looked at quite closely on the price action webinar. I've been watching this one for a while, and I've been explaining this quite a few times, how we had this one big massive bullish move on the weekly chart without coming back, without a bearish week. So we were due a retracement, and we took the short trade, still actually holding a bit of a short trade from the very, very top here, 92.70 I think it was, for about 400 pips. But we come down, and I've highlighted that we're retesting this sort of 61.8% retracement level. So we've actually now formed this really nice sort of bullish engulfing on a weekly chart. Last week, doji candles failed to break above here. Now, this is also going to be a very interesting one because we have lots of pound news. We've got the governor or the head of the Bank of England speaking about twice this week, and then we have the manufacturing coming out for GBP. So this is also one that's going to be hard to call right now. It's going to be something that we're going to have to monitor. You can see here at the moment, there's signs that Euro GBP can't push higher. So there's signs that the Euro could weaken or the pound could get stronger and push this down because we are struggling around this level at the moment. Now we put on a nice simple trend line. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Nice shooting star on the daily, like we were talking about in the price action. You can imagine if that was the other way around in an uptrend, that would be a pin bar. Looks good for a push down. Looks good to push back down. So we will be watching this carefully next week. You can see here, again, we'll have to wait and see what happens on Monday. But again, price action webinar, 1, 2, 3, even star formation. What we're going to be speaking about next is patterns and so on, double top or triple top, you could even call it. So interesting level here. We're failing to break higher. Going to be watching this one for a possible push down next week. While we're talking about pound, I just got a clear chart here just so we could look at the monthly chart. Monthly chart here with the pound. You can see here we made a double bottom. I believe these are sort of all-time lows with the pound. You can see all-time lows. So we made a double bottom. So really, we need some bad news to sort of push it below this sort of level. That's why we were looking at longs here a long time ago. One of the reasons we need something drastically bad. I know we've got a lot of Brexit news and so on at the moment, but we need something drastically bad to maybe push us below all-time lows. We couldn't do that, but on the monthly we got this little push up. Very weak morning star formation on a monthly because you can see this spike pushing us all the way back down. If we drop down to the weekly chart, you can actually see here an evening star formation on the weekly chart. Then last week tried to push up, try to push down, sort of a doji candle, not really knowing what way it wants to go. So this is very interesting coming into next week. Now we were looking at long trades on this last week because I did see the bullish momentum, which I'm going to go over now. I still have it here. Unfortunate that we didn't take it in the end. We got about 30, it could have had about 30-40 pips. But you can see here from what I talk about in the price action is a perfect example. This is why I kept it on. This was the long zone. It was Friday evening. We started creeping back into the long zone, and it just wasn't worth risking it, especially with the pound. The pound with a Friday evening, at one point we were looking quite weak on GBP, JPY as well. I was looking at taking a long trade on this. We were looking weak as we were pushing down. So I decided to just, it was late on a Friday afternoon to not put ourselves at any risk over the weekend and so on. So what we can see here on the lower time frames, again, price action webinar explaining this perfectly. We've got 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 1, 2, 3. What did we see there? Morning star formation, third touch of the ascending trend line, then bang, we have that we have the push up, that nice 30-40 pip move up. So that was a long zone. We did hit into it. Lots of you actually kept the trade, which you shouldn't have. When I say close. But yeah, you can see there, even though we didn't take the trade, you can see the method behind it and start to understand and start seeing these from what I've been saying in the price action webinar and what I've been saying about, even here you can see a little bit of the sort of trend line strategy failing to break, and then we reverse back up to the upside. You can see here, third rejection trend line, 3 pin rejection on the 30-minute chart. You can see that it's a beautiful reversal sign. 1 pin, 2 pin, 3 pin, and then you can see here that third pin, that pin bar with hardly any wick at the top, just showing that the momentum is going to carry on. So a nice little trade setup there, a nice one to learn from. Just shows you that everything that we look at just plays out time and time again. But where we're going next week, we have this sort of inverse head and shoulders as well. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder. But you can see here from what I said about the weekly that and the daily that we are in choppy times at the moment. This pair doesn't really know where it wants to go next. We have lots of news coming out, so I'm going to wait on this one to call it during the week. We probably will have a trade on this during the week because there's going to be lots of volatility, but let's just see how it reacts coming into the early part of the week and in the middle of the part of the week. We've got the Carney speaking from the Bank of England, and we've also got the US dollar news, so this is going to be a very top volatile pair. GJ was one I was looking at. We're obviously short from the very top here, short from up at these levels. 1, 3, 4, 7. What was it? No, it was up here, wasn't it? 135.40. Over 400 pips. Was looking at this on Friday. Price was pushing down. Was looking at taking a long trade, but again, didn't want to take the added risk. But what we can see here is something else that I explained a lot. That when we have a support, what does price like to do before it makes a reversal? Like to have that one and final third push down. Looked like we were having it here. This is why it was quite difficult to decipher on Friday. We had this pin bar here, really strong, bullish engulfing on the previous candle. Looked like this was going to rock it. Then we came back down again. So it's like, okay, this is Friday. We're going to see some manipulation and the pound could continue to push down and dump. But then we pull back up again. So this is what was giving me the hesitation on GBP USD as well. So we will look at this. These will be on the top of our watch list next week. We'll be watching this sort of area. For GBP, JPY, as you know, I'm looking for hedge trades on this. We made a 1% where we had a 90 pip jump on the push back up on GBP, JPY last week. Still holding our 400 pip short trade. So I will be watching out to see if there is hedge trade opportunities on this one again next week. Let's just have a look at this on monthly. Monthly chart on this one last month was a bit choppy. Hard, nothing, not really telling us anything. Bullish engulfing on the previous month, so there might be bullish potential this month. USD JPY on the monthly chart, you can see last month was quite a bullish month. Rebound off the lows of 10600, pushed up to 10800, had a bit of a slowdown here. Weekly chart, we've had a shooting star off that resistance. Then we've had a hanging man. Then we've had that bearish engulfing last week pushing down. So interesting one this week. Big bullish week month previous. Could we just be pulling back here as a retracement in order to pull back up higher? We've got these sort of the 61.8% retracement lines up perfectly with 10600. So it could be that we're coming back down a little bit lower first. At the moment, I highlighted this double top here that lots of you took from one of my evening and morning calls. As you can see here, we had this sort of, we came up and had this third test of the trend line and we broke down. So at the moment, we're showing some support here around this 10700, just below level. You can see here this support. Going to watch this one as well with the US dollar. Monitoring to see if we can find support here. If the Japanese yen pairs like GBP, JPY, if we are going to see a push back up higher, we might see a push back up higher with USD JPY as well. But we do have to understand that we are quite bearish. We've just rejected that trend line, and we do have a possibility coming down and lining up with that perfect 61.8% retracement if we were to go higher. So what we might be doing is looking at possible short trades as well on the lower time frame to see if there's any sort of intraday trades of pushing down if we could come down to that 10600 area. Again, US dollar pairs, lots coming out this week, so it's a hard one to call at the moment. Monthly on USD CAD, not much to look at. Weekly, we can see here we've struggled at this weekly level to break above. Weekly charts, this is the weekly chart now, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks rejecting that resistance. Then we came up last week and rejected that again. Got this simple trend line here, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. We're rejecting it at the moment. We'll drop down to the daily chart, and it does look like we could possibly start to come down lower now. We got this sort of not the strongest evening star formation, but we do have a bearish engulfing. So what I'll be looking at for next week upon open is to see how price reacts and see if we kind of pull back into this sort of level. We finished quite bearish on Friday even though we had that big pullback after non-farm payroll. We had that push down before non-farm payroll, push back up. Let's have a look here. What we can see, we drop down to the 1 hour chart. This is sort of head and shoulders formation, sort of bouncing off this 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're falling. So I am interested in this one coming down next week. It's about looking for an entry. I think that we might again see some consolidation on Monday. So I'll be watching around this one and looking for any potential setups to take a short trade. But that's not a given. I will be watching and updating once the market opens. Remember, USD CAD has a sort of inverse correlation with Australian dollar. Australian dollar, last month a bit of a doji candle, still big rejection from the previous resistance, came back, hit resistance and pushed back down. If you look at the weekly chart, we have had this big rejection on the weekly, really nice rejection of the support level here. So should we see Aussie dollar push up higher, then we should see USD CAD push down. However, let's have a look at the daily on Aussie dollar. We've had this really nice morning star formation off the bottom here, 1, 2, 3. I think I highlighted this in an evening call. So what we're looking at is a possible pullback the next day in order to take an entry, but the bulls are too strong in this one and we've actually pushed up higher. Now, however, we have just broken out of this trend line and we are now running into resistance and the last lower high. So lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, low, coming up to the last lower high. So I expect to find some resistance here and I expect this to pull down. Whether it be just for a retracement, but I am expecting a bit of a pull down. We could pull back down maybe into sort of these regions here. So if that does happen, then what will happen is I expect sort of USD CAD to have another push back up slightly into sort of these regions before coming down. So watching those two carefully, and that's also the same as New Zealand dollar. New Zealand dollar monthly, previous monthly candle, very bearish, big shooting star, tried to push up, bears pushed it all the way back down. Weekly chart, we had a nice rejection from the lows here, a bit of a pin bar, but on Friday we saw the shooting star back above around the previous lower high. So we saw some weakness on this on the Friday. Sort of the same situation with Aussie dollar, US dollar. And we know that New Zealand dollar and Aussie dollar move very similar. So here we can see we've attempted to break out here. We've come up to the previous lower high. This is actually the last lower high here because we've got this spike. You can see here we're attempting to break out and attempting to break the last lower high. Technically, we're still overall in a bearish trend. So this does have the ability to just absolutely dump still because of the monthly candle. So I'll be watching this. I'll be watching how Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar open up and how they act at the start of the week. Remember, US dollar is going to be a big part to play in these as well. Gold monthly candle, you can see we had that big rejection of 1550, big bearish candle, not bearish engulfing or anything like that. And if you look at these monthly candles on gold, it's not really the biggest candle given how strong it has been recently. If we drop down to the weekly chart, we can see we've had a push down, a retracement, which is always needed in especially in such a big push up. We've had a push down, and let's just have a look. We've got this sort of pin bar. Is there a possibility here? We've hit this 61.8% perfectly. Gold could go higher. We have to weigh up both options, but however, at the moment, we can see here we also have two options here. You can see we've got this sort of 61.8%. We come and fulfilled this fib here. So now this becomes the new first point of the fib. The low becomes the second. And we're now looking at 61.8% retracements once again. At the moment, the ball is in the bear's court. We're bearish at the moment. You can see we're making these bearish moves. We are in this sort of downtrend here. And what I'm going to be watching out for is this sort of level. If we stay below here, then I think gold's going down. And I think the US dollar could go up. at the moment. So I'm going to be watching it here. While we trade below here, there's still opportunities for gold to actually take another move down. And we could see a move down on gold first. We could possibly see a move down before then seeing an overall sort of bigger move up longer term. But at the moment, we're going to see how this opens up. Was looking at this on Friday. Shorts are looking good on Friday as well, but then we had this choppiness, see this big bearish engulfing, then this big bullish engulfing back up. I'm watching this trend line sort of situation that I've just highlighted here. I'm going to see how gold reacts, but gold and the US dollar. Let's just clear this off. I explained on the US dollar that we are still bullish. No matter how many pullbacks we've had recently, there's nothing, it's not taking away that we're in a bullish trend with US dollar. Monthly chart. Remember what I was talking about pin bars? Pin bar, big push up. Not really a pin bar here, but push back up. Here, pin bar, push back up. Here's a strong pin bar. And this month hasn't pushed back up yet, but the last month is a strong, you've seen this rejection here. We've seen this rejection of the previous support or resistance around these sort of this area. Come down, reject it, pushed all the way back up. Ended very bullish for the month. This month we're pulling back, but we need to see, is that going to continue, or is just a retracement before this pushes up even more. Choppy one with gold. We have taken out previous highs as well, so it's given mixed signals at the moment. But I do think, as I said, at the moment we have created this double top. We are overall bullish on the US dollar. Overall, we're bullish, but yeah, I do think that we might see a little bit of a pull down here. But I explained last week, I do think that it is possible that we could push up higher still with the US dollar. We could push up. There's a little bit of a void here that I've been explaining with the US dollar that you can see here. Just a little bit of a void. There's this gap here that looks like we could just come up and tap into these sort of levels. I think that this week could be, or last week could have been, a bit of a false flag, inducing people to take a short trade, sell all the US dollar pairs. But then this week, given that we have a lot of US dollar news, we could see reversal and another push back up to the upside, which would mean that we would have we would see gold come, if US dollar goes up, we would see gold come down. But you can see here we've got this sort of gap here that we could come out and test this sort of level here on the US dollar, and we also have that sort of gap here on gold that we might have that little bit more of a push up. Lots of different situations that can happen. As I said, it's very high impact fundamentals coming out next week, so we have to have a sort of general understanding of what could happen, and then try not get affected by the choppiness next week. So yeah, that's a possibility. We could see a little push down early in the week. We could see an overall another push up with the US dollar. May not be time to short it overall yet. We could see a big push up to around this 100 level, and then from there we could see a massive push down. And then that's when we might see gold have a big push back up to the upside once we come back into sort of these regions. That's just one long term possibility. You have to think long term as well as short term. But let's see how the market opens, and let's see what happens with the US dollar this week. Now, another pair there that you just saw, not pair, commodity, oil. I just wanted to leave this as I had it on Friday. I was watching this one carefully. I was also thinking about updating on trade on this. But just here on a daily chart, you can see here, we came down, filled that void again that I was talking about on the evening calls and morning calls. We were trading around this level here, but I explained I could see this coming down and dipping into this sort of this level here, this support region. We've done that, had this shooting start, this sort of pin bar, bullish engulfing on the daily. In the end, it was quite of a choppy day. You can see this formation that I explained in the price action webinar. Really nice formation, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. So watching this one, possible reversal coming on US oil. Watching this one when the market opens. This could be a mover on Monday. So be watching out for this one. Other than that, as I said, the market recently has been very fixed on what the US dollar is doing. Obviously, the US dollar is the main currency in the world, but gold, US dollar, everything's sort of revolving around what's going on with that at the moment. And the trade, the pairs that it's affecting, that it crosses with, it's just sort of overtaking what the other part of the currency is doing. For instance, NZD, USD, and so on. So, going to be watching this one. Lots of news this week. We have to take our time. Don't rush it this week. There's going to be lots and lots of things happening. So yeah, I expect a volatile week. I expect a busy week, very busy week. So we're prepared now. Let's get ready and let's see what the week has to bring. I'll speak to you soon, guys. Have a great evening, and unless anything major happens on market open, I'll catch you for the morning call tomorrow morning. Thank you.